The village of Oruko did not appear on any modern map. It existed between the rainforest and the rough road of the Forbidden Mountains. To outsiders who occasionally visited near, it was a place of frozen time. To those born of its red dust, it was the only natural area the world had left. Kofi was a strong man, though his hands were already used to using iPhones and laptops rather than farming. He had returned from the city to bury his grandfather, the man they called the Weaver of Silence. But the burial had been delayed by some days of unnatural rain that turned the lands into a swamp. "The land is rejecting the shovel, Kofi," whispered Adama, a childhood friend whose skin was as dark as the bark of an Iroko tree. They stood at the edge of the land. The forest beside was so thick that the sun only touched the floor in jagged golden needles. Kofi wiped sweat from his brow. "The rain is just weather, Adama. We dig tomorrow." But that night, the rain stopped with a violent suddenness that felt like a hand clapped over a mouth. Kofi was drawn into the forest by a sound he couldn't name, a low, rhythmic thrumming that vibrated in his marrow. He walked until the air grew thick with the smell of wet copper and ancient cedar. There, beneath the exposed roots of a fallen mahogany tree, he saw it. It wasn't a relic, it was a face. Deep in the mud, half submerged, lay a mask carved from a wood so black it seemed to swallow the light of his flashlight. It was shaped with impossible detail. The forehead was etched with the rising sun, but the eyes were hollowed out into weeping slits. Around the jawline, ivory teeth was set into the wood, bared in a silent, eternal scream. As Kofi reached out, his fingers trembling, the forest went dead silent. The insects stopped their chattering. The wind held its breath. The moment his skin touched the wood, he didn't feel cold. He felt a searing heat. And then a voice, not heard in his ears, but felt in the pulse of his own blood. "The shadow comes not from the sky, but from the hearts that have forgotten the name of the soil." Kofi pulled his hand back, gasping. The mask didn't move, yet the ivory teeth seemed to glint with a life of their own. He had found the warning of the elder, and the race against the darkness had officially begun. By dawn, the mask sat on a white cloth in the center of Kofi's family hut. The village elders gathered, their faces etched with a terror that they tried to hide behind prayer beads and stern gazes. Among them was Mama Luta, the oldest woman in Oruko, whose eyes were clouded with cataracts but saw farther than anyone else. She didn't need to touch the mask to know what it was. "That is the face of the last guardian," she rasped, her voice like dry leaves skittering on stone. "It belonged to Baako, the one who saw the end before we were even born." Kofi looked at the mask. Under the morning light, he could see the sacrifice carved in the interior. Thin, needle-like thorns were embedded in the inside of the mask. For the elder Baako to wear it and deliver the prophecy, he would have had to press his face against those thorns, pinning his flesh to the wood. The prophecy was literally written in his blood. "What is the impending darkness, Kofi?" asked, his voice cracking. "Is it war? A plague?" "It is the unbecoming," Mama Luta replied. She pointed a skeletal finger at the carvings on the mask's cheeks. They weren't just decorative symbols. They were a visual montage of a dying world. One carving showed a river drying into a cracked road of bone. Another showed brothers turning their spears on one another because they no longer recognized their own faces. Baako saw a time where the trees would be sold for paper that held no wisdom. He saw a time where the air would turn to ash and the children would forget the songs that kept the spirits fed. He sacrificed his sight, his skin, and his life to trap this warning in the wood. He knew we would be too blind to see the darkness ourselves. Suddenly, the mask began to vibrate against the table. A fine black dust rose from its surface. Outside, a panicked cry went up from the village square. Kofi rushed to the door and stopped cold. The vibrant green leaves of the surrounding forest were turning gray in real time. the color leaching out of them as if a great shadow was drinking the very life from the land. The prophecy wasn't a warning for the future, it was a description of the present. Kofi sat by the mask all day. The sun was hot, but the mask felt cold. He looked closely at the wood. It was not just a face. There were tiny lines carved on the cheeks. "These are not just patterns. This is a map," Kofi whispered. The lines looked like the rivers and paths of the forest, but one path was different. It led to a place called the Deep Well. No one went there anymore. The old people said the spirits lived there, and the spirits did not like to be woken up. Suddenly, the mask made a sound. It was a soft hiss like wind through dry grass. "The water is turning to salt," the mask seemed to say. Kofi ran to the village well. He pulled up a bucket of water and took a sip. He spat it out instantly. It was bitter and grey. The darkness was starting with the water. If the water died, the people would have to leave the land. "We have to go to the deep well," Kofi told Adama. Adama looked scared. He shook his head. "That place is cursed, Kofi. The elder who made that mask died there. He gave his life to keep the darkness inside the well. If we go there, we might let it all out." "If we don't go," Kofi said, looking at the grey, dying trees, "there would be nothing left to save." Kofi and Adama started walking into the forest. Usually, the forest was loud with birds and monkeys. Today, it was silent. The leaves under their feet did not crunch. They turned into dust. The trees looked like skeletons reaching for the sky. The prophecy was moving fast. The unbecoming was eating the color of the world. "Look," Adama pointed. A group of men from the village were following them. They were led by a man named Jide. Jide was greedy. He did not care about the prophecy or the spirits. All he saw was the mask as something to sell. "Give us the mask, Kofi. A museum in the city will pay us millions. We can buy a new life. We don't need this old dying land." Kofi held the mask tight. He felt a sharp pain in his chest. The mask was getting heavier. It felt like it was made of lead. "This is not a toy to sell, Jide," Kofi yelled back. "It is a shield. If we lose it, the shadow will take everything." Jide and his men did not listen. They started to run towards them. Kofi and Adama had to make a choice. They could fight, or they could run into the mist of the ancestors, a part of the forest where people often got lost and never came back. Kofi looked at the mask. The eyes of the mask seemed to point towards the mist. "Follow me," Kofi cried. They jumped into the thick white fog just as Jide reached them. The air turned cold and the world disappeared. Inside the mist, everything was white. Kofi could not see his own feet. He could not hear Adama's footsteps. "Adama," he called. No one answered. Kofi looked down at the mask. It was glowing with a soft blue light. The light showed a path through the fog. Kofi followed it until he saw a tall, thin man sitting on a fallen log. The man was very old. His skin looked like the crinkled pages of an ancient book. He was wearing a cloak made of dried grass. Most strangely, his face was covered in small white scars, just like the thorns inside the mask. "You have come at last," the old man said. His voice sounded like the wind. "I am Baako. I am the one who carved that face of wood." Kofi gasped. "But you died a long time ago." "In this forest, no one truly dies if their work is not finished," Baako said. He stood up. He was taller than any tree. "The darkness you see outside is a shadow of what people have forgotten. They forgot that the land is their mother, and now the mother is going to sleep, and her breath is turning cold." Kofi held out the mask. "How do I stop it? The water is salt, the trees are grey." Baako pointed to a dark hole in the ground behind the trees. "The deep well is there, but to save the water, you must give the mask back to the earth, and you must pay a price." Kofi walked to the edge of the hole. It was very deep and very dark. He could smell the bitter, salty water at the bottom. "What is the price?" Kofi asked. Baako stepped closer. The mist swirled around them. "The mask needs a heart to beat again. If you throw it in, the darkness will stop for your children. but you will never be able to leave this forest. You will become a guardian just like me. You will be a spirit that no one can see." Kofi looked back at the way he came. He thought about his home. He thought about his friends. He thought about the bright city and his life there. Suddenly, Jide and his men broke through the mist. They looked tired and angry. Jide was holding a heavy stick. "There it is," Jide shouted, pointing at the glowing mask. "Grab him, take the treasure." Jide did not see the ghost of Bako. He only saw Kofi and the valuable wood. He ran forward, his eyes full of greed. "Stop," Kofi cried. "The well is dangerous." But Jide was too fast. He pushed Kofi aside and grabbed for the mask. As his hand touched the wood, the blue light turned into a fiery red. The ground began to shake. "The greed has arrived," Bako whispered sadly. "Now the well will drink whether you like it or not."